So that we're in a new chapter now. And if you missed that last test, there's probably 4 of you right now that need to take that test. Don't underestimate. You just took 11, how many days off was it? 12? When was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 days off in a row with probably no math. You need to study for that. But if you want to, you could take it on Thursday, and it was a partner test. So I could look forward to seeing you on Thursday in this room before school, and you'd probably have a partner that way. But that means you've got to study between now and Thursday. Watch that video, ask me questions during work time. Or one kid was like, oh, I feel so shaky on this. I want to just practice with you on Thursday. I said, sure. Then they can take it, in my class on Friday. So that's another option if you want. All right, so this chapter that we're about to start is another trig chapter, and it's called Solving Trig Equations. And isn't that what we've been doing this whole time? No. Let me explain the difference. What you've been doing up until now, you might have had a problem like this. Sine of theta equals 1/2. Everybody please write that down. But this isn't solving a trig equation. This is different. This is circle trig. Now, why is it going to be hard to remember this? Because we just finished trig number 5. That was 5 tests on trig. This was from trig number 1. So literally, it's been months since you did this exact problem. So I'll give you a little reminder. You got that written down so far? Draw the circle. Put A, S, T, and C on there. Yes, it's acronym. You say all students take calc to help remember that. And then what do those each mean, really? Bridger, you remember what the A stands for?
Like all of them are positive.
All of them are positive there. All of what? All the trig functions. Turf, what does the S stand for?
Only sign is positive.
Only sign is positive in that quadrant. Very good. So then, this one's positive, right? So you should be able to narrow it down to 2 places. Then you should be able to draw a triangle. And then, did I give you sides? Or did I give you an angle? Yeah, these are sides. I give you 2 sides. The angle goes here. I did not give you the angle, therefore, I want the angle. And last thought, the angles can't be in degrees. So if you figure out that the answer is 60 degrees, which is not, but if it was like 60 degrees, then you'd say, oh, that's pi over 3. Remember those in radians? So many little things to remember. And this is what you'd get to after 3 steps. So our problems are more complicated and they simplify down to this. And then you have to take it from here and know the 2 answers for it. So sometimes on this next test that you're about to take, this one has 2 answers. Sometimes the problem would be so complicated that you can have as many as 6 answers to one problem. This test that you just finished, like the previous, right before break, that was hard, and we decided to give you a partner, which made it much more easy. This test is also hard, and you are for sure not going to be partners on this next test. We don't want you to think that you have lots of partner tests. That's a rare and special opportunity. But this next test, no partners. And just so you know, I was talking to colleagues over break, and actually right after break, we had to work on Monday. And in our meeting, they said, yeah, we've actually already scheduled the retake day for this test. What does that tell you about the test? It's not easy. But I kind of like a challenge like that. So I feel like on our last test, I did the math, and 40 out of 49 kids who have finished that test, 40 out of 49 got at least a B. So in other words, that means 9 kids got worse than a B. So that's pretty good. 40 out of 49 is about 80% of you got a B or an A on that last test. I bet we can do it again. And it all depends on this old stuff. So anyway, I'm trying to give you a feeling for why you should try right now. And it reviews a really hard chapter, and then it adds a bunch of stuff to it. And that led to a test that's so hard, we've already scheduled the retake day. So take it seriously. And if you do, maybe you won't have to do that retake. and just have a free day when everybody else is reviewing and taking the retake. Wouldn't that be nice? Okay, so first off, which quadrants did you think it was in? Morgan, tell me, is it A, S, T, or C? And then in your head, change it quick to quadrant 1, 2, 3, or 4. Quadrant 1, correct, because all of them are positive there. What's the other quadrant where sign is positive? Nope. C stands for cosine. S, that one is the other one where sign is positive. There's where your two triangles go. Then you label them with all the sides and all the angles, like 30s, 60s, 45s. But then remember that your answer has two answers. Like one for this. Let's say you think that's 45. It is not. But then there's also that angle, which is like a bunch of 45s. Again, 45 isn't the right angle there. Take a second, rack your brain for this, and this is the easy part. So we'll get you back on track remembering this stuff by the end of the hour. Please compare with the kid next to you, see what you think the angles are. If you're a little lost, say, hey, can you remind me how to do this? Okay, let's see how you did. I'm going to do Dice of Destiny to figure out who to call on, so you don't feel like I'm picking on you. The dice are picking on you. So, row 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Person 2, and that would be Rissy. That is you. Can you tell me on the quadrant 1, what should the sides be? Okay, but what goes where? Yes, this is opposite over hypotenuse, and 1 is here, and then what? Is the. Okay, good. And the third side is? Correct. Did you check for any negatives? Yeah, and should there be any negatives? No, good. Now we go, what is this angle then that's right here, Rissy? 30, but instead of 30, you're going to say pi over 6. Good. Across from the 1 is where the smallest angle. It's a 30. 30 is pi over 6. Pi over 6 is one of your answers. Brody, this one's a whole bunch of pi over 6s because that's also 30. It's also pi over 6, but you can't say pi over 6 because you got to say it's all the way over here, which is a bunch of pi over 6s. 5 pi over 6. Do you get those are two angles that would work and solve my problem? That ring a bell? Now, if I had to just say without any help from me, how many of you would have had this? All right, cool. So now, if my problem changed to sine of theta is equal to 1, a bunch of stuff is going to change. But fundamentally, I still want to know what the angle is. I'd still make my classic, and I'd always just use this, even if you're not going to use it this time. I'd always put the ASTC on it. Then think through, I'm going to remind you, one of these is x over r, one of them is y over r, and one of them is y over x. That's going to be handy right now, because you won't be able to draw the triangle. Ethan T., can you tell me why I actually gave you 2 sides when I said 1? 1 over 1. 1 over 1. That's why I gave you 2 sides. So I gave you 2 sides, but are they 2 sides of a triangle? No, because the hypotenuse has to be bigger than the other sides. So this, you can't draw triangles. That should remind you of these that are called quadrantals. I know a lot of you would have struggled with this if I hadn't reminded you about that. So now that I've reminded you about that, I still want angles. Would you please figure out what angle it is? And then this time, actually use your vocal cords and talk to that kid next to you to see if you and they come up with the same thing. If you're stuck, ask them for help. Okay, so here we go. There's two letters, Y and R. How many of you had this written on your paper? Excellent. That's a good way to do this because you can't draw a triangle for it. So if I'm going to pick, I'd go, this is 1, 0, and is that it? Is that where Y is 1? Well, all of these have a radius of 1, so that's kind of irrelevant. It's about where is Y 1, and that's not where Y is 1. This is where Y is 1. So that is the answer, and the answer is an angle, and that could be 90, but instead you have to use radians. Ava, do you know what it is? Pi over 2. Raise your hand if you had pi over 2. Good. All right. Now, without so much reminder and help, here is an example of a problem that'll be on your next test. Not the exact same problem, but one like it. Sine theta, cosine theta equals 0. Does this remind you at all of when we have two things that are factored and then you set both of them equal to 0 and then see what you get? Like what makes this part 0 and what makes that part 0? I hope it reminds you of that. So, find the answers for this part. Find the answers for that part. Remember, I understand this is hard. That's why I told you we've already got the retake day scheduled for this test. Give it your best shot, though. All right, let's see how you did. If sine theta is equal to 0 or cosine theta is equal to 0, it's just like problems like this. Do you remember when we had like x plus 5 and x minus 4 and it equals 0 and you get two answers? Whatever makes this 0 and whatever makes that 0. You know what I'm talking about? It's just like that. So, what makes sine equal to 0? Well, sine is the y. So, this is y over r. And r could be 1, as long as y is 0. 0 over 1 is still 0. So don't think that this like somehow doesn't work. It's just x over r for cosine. So then I go to all four spots and I figure out which are the ones that work. And if you didn't label those spots, you could have at least done that. Remember that when you have a complicated thing, just do all the little things you can do. This is 1, 0. This is 0, 1. This is -1, 0. And this is 0, -1. And then you ask yourself, where is x 0? That's a spot where x is 0. And so that's pi over 2. And that's another spot where x is 0. So it's 3 pi over 2, in case you forgot that spot. And then this is where is cosine 0? Sorry, that was cosine. This one's sine now. So where is y 0? Y is 0 on this spot, which is at 0 degrees, aka 0 radians. And this spot also. So did anybody pull off that it is 0 and pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2? It's all four quadrantals. Anybody in the room? All right. Nice job, the 4 of 5 of you. All right. Do you get why this is going to be a hard test? If only 5 kids in the whole room pulled that off. Okay. Now, I'm not saying, we're on day 1 of the unit. I'm not saying you aren't going to get there. I'm just trying to say, respect this stuff. Try hard. Today is unusual in that I'm not giving you homework. Why? On like a really important day like this, will we not do any homework? Because there is a religious holiday that happens today. It starts tonight, and then it goes into tomorrow. And so that means that there's no homework for tonight. Awesome. But in lieu of that, I'm asking you to just try hard on 3 problems in class that are a Schoology quiz. Okay? And I don't think you're quite ready for it yet, but we'll just do like one more thing together. And then in little groups, you'll do this little 3 questions, Schoology quiz in class. You finish that up, you get another night off of math. Okay, so give me some hard work for the next 15, 20 minutes, and then you're out of here and no homework. All right, last thought is, what about factoring? Write this down, please. 3 sine squared minus 4 sine minus 1 equals 0. And I want you to think about that like if I had said 3x squared minus 4x minus 1, would you have been able to factor that? It's the same exact thing. It just has sine in it. So it's just like the black one at the bottom there. Figure out what this factors to, and then we'll take it the next step and solve it. I'm going to pause for a second while I walk around and see how you guys are doing. I see most of you have got it started correctly with a 3 sine and a sine. Because this times this makes that. Now all you got to do is figure out, is it plus and plus or plus and minus? And then what's the last number at the end? And it is possible that I messed up and this one doesn't factor. But you'd have to start this way. Then would you agree you have to have a plus and a minus? Because there's a negative here? Because this number is negative, that's a minus 1. This has to be a plus and this has to be a minus, or they could be reversed, but there has to be 1 plus and 1 minus. And then, use logic. How do you make a 1? It has to be a 1 and a 1. So unfortunately, Mr. Server messed up. I thought it was going to factor, and on the test, it would factor. So who can tell me what one thing I could have changed in the problem to make it factor? If this would have been a this, then it would have factored. Like the reason it doesn't work right now is because I have positive 1 sine x, or theta, and this one's negative 3 sine theta, and that together makes negative 2 sine theta, not negative 4. Dang. But I could change one little thing in the problem, and it worked. I'm going to change this 4 right here to a 2. And then the problem will work. It will factor. See if you can do it. Well, then it still has to be a plus and a minus, doesn't it? And there's only one choice. To make a 1 is a 1 and a 1. But does it actually work this way? It does, because this makes negative 3 sine theta. This makes positive 1 sine theta. When you put them together, you get negative 2 sine theta, and that's what I wanted. And I apologize if that x there was messing with your head. X and theta are interchangeable, so. Okay, cool. So there is a reminder of how to factor. This chapter includes all the greatest hits. It includes circle trig, which was hard for a lot of you. It includes factoring, which is hard for a lot of you. And it puts them all together into things that have circle trig and factoring and even more stuff. But if I wanted to finish this one would be too hard. We wouldn't have something like that on your test. But this, we would totally have on your test. Solve just this part of it. After this, we're doing that little Schoology quiz, 3 questions. With a partner, easiest end to a lesson in history. You can walk out of here with no homework. Give me a couple more minutes of focus. If you were lost, this part has to equal 0. So you're right. Sine theta minus 1 needs to equal 0. And then you would add 1 to both sides. Sine theta equals 1. And then you realize you got two sides, 1 and 1. And then you're like, wait a minute, we did that earlier this hour. That's one of those quadrantal spots. Please compare your angle in radians with the kid next to you. A lot of people had pi over 2, and you were correct, because this spot right here is at 0, 1, and so this is y over r, and where is y 1? Because I have this. Then you go, oh, this is where y is 1. Where is that? That is pi over 2. And that's the angle that would work. So there's your answer. Okay, so I know, hard to get your brain back in gear after 11 days off. You can imagine after the summer. They have done studies, and I hate these studies, that say that if we went year-round in school, kids would actually get a lot further. Because after taking 3 months off, June, July, August, you have forgotten so much stuff that you have to go back and review a lot. It's kind of like that. You just had 11 days off. You can imagine what 100 days off was. And the reason I say I hate the studies is because they do pretty powerfully show that we ought to have year-round school. I don't like it because I'm a teacher and I love having the summer off. But if they changed it to year-round school with like multiple weeks off here and there, like, 2 weeks at Christmas and 2 weeks at spring break and 2 weeks off in June and 2 weeks off in August, and I'd still hate it, but it wouldn't be that bad. That's what some people say we should do, is have the maximum break be like 2 weeks. All right, so let's get to that Schoology quiz. Everybody start with numero uno. Montes, you got it up there yet? Okay, I'll come back to you for number 2. Turf, do you have number 1?
Yeah.
Would you read me number 1?
2x squared minus x minus 1 equals 0.
Oh, that should be really easy to factor. I hope. Just factor it, put your answer like that. And I know they could be rearranged. I got both answers in there, so you can either write it with the 1, like, let's say it's 2x minus 5 and 2x plus 4. If it was like that, you could reverse them. It wouldn't matter. Okay, so figure out how to factor it. And again, I would encourage you, before you hit submit, to review the 3 answers with the kid next to you. It's totally okay. You're working on homework. Actually, it's not homework. This is supposed to be done. In fact, I need you to be done with it in class today so that you don't have any homework. But I made it ludicrously short and a lot of time left. And that should mean you will be finished and there's no homework. That's all I got for you for today.